Your child's brain is growing from the experiences they're around. Okay, so they're growing from everything they're around. So if they're going to be sitting in front of a television or sitting on their iPad, their brain is becoming experience dependent. So it's going to learn stuff that the computer is doing, right? And we are made as human beings to be growing through movement, through play, through conversations, through human connection, through games. And when they're doing that, they're missing out on all these other things. So your kid's actually missing out on those areas of development which are going to be fostering them and developing them to be the best that they can be, academically, cognitively, socially, emotionally.
I have the amazing Natalie Nicholls with me, who is an education and learning specialist in PLECS learning development for kids. And today we are talking about how do we make the hard choices and bring balance back into our kids' lives through tech and real life. Lot to unpack there, Nat. I know you're passionate about this. You've got a story to kick us off to paint us a picture of what it's like as a parent and technology.
Yes. Well, I thought it's always nice to start with, I have been there. I was just remembering this morning, 15 years ago, my eldest now was when she was a little girl. I was that mum in bed. She was waking up early and I had the iPad there ready to go. I'm laying in bed. Here you go. Have the iPad, right? That episode finishes. Play again. When you're really tired in the morning and you're just like, here, have the iPad. Or on the weekends, go watch TV. Have the iPad. Go do this, right? Because that's the default of, we need our own me time, right? Yeah. And so, I've had that journey. And what I didn't know back then, that what I know now, is that I wish that people told me all that stuff. And I think since then there's been so much more research as well that's come out. But I'm really all about empowering parents with that brain science knowledge, right? So really knowing exactly what's going on for our kids. What happens when we are giving them those iPads? It may seem innocent, but what's really going on? Yeah. And, how we can always for the parents who really want to make their kids thrive, and for the parents who are like, okay, I want to learn this stuff and I want to figure out what I can do next to be able to make those changes for my kids, because this is the foundations we're developing now for their whole life. Yeah. Right? We forget that we've got them for those 15, 20 years, and those first years are absolutely crucial, but we're setting them up with brain architecture for their whole life. Right? And so this stuff is really, really important. And I wish I knew this stuff years and years ago with my eldest. But, I've managed to implement some things as she's got older, definitely. But if anyone can have this knowledge, then, I'm all for passing it on.
No, very much so. And I think I just want to set off with this. If you're a parent and you've given your kid the iPad, the device, whatever, to keep them at bay while you need time, I think there's an acknowledgement that it's okay that you've done that. Don't beat yourself up over it. But I think the other question is, why do we do that? What's happening in the parent's life that we need to say, hey, here's the device and not me?
Yes. Yeah. I love that, Doug, because when we think about it, it's like, okay, so why are we giving those devices, or why are we turning on the TV? It can be something to do with us, or it could be the child. So if we're looking at what you were saying about us, we're thinking a lot of the time it's like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I've been at work all day, right? I don't have the brain capacity, so go watch the television, right? Or I need some time to me. So what we're thinking about is like, it's a deep down inside us issue, okay? And so when we can think about it more in a reflection of, well, why am I feeling like that? And instead of looking at it's because of my child, but look at, right, well, how can I help myself feel better so that I can cope with that, give myself more energy to be able to interact and play with my kids, right? There are ways that we can go about that by looking after ourselves in different ways. But it's really important, I think, to understand the why first, right? Because if we start to understand the why we're doing something, we can then address the deep down issues of how we can change that and avoid the blame of the children. I mean, all kids are afternoon, we're going to have whingy kids. We're going to have complaining. They're all tired, and then we're tired too. And then we're going to cook dinner, and then we're going to get them to bed. And, we're all in that same boat. But, there are those minority of parents who are like, oh, they don't do that. But why and how? Yeah. We can be empowered with that knowledge. And I really want to just uplift those parents to go, if you want to do this, you can. Mm. You can, right? It starts slow. But if you really want to make these changes, it does start with us first, understanding the why while we're doing it, and then moving to that next level.
That's great advice. What actually happens from a developmental point of view for our kids?
Yeah. So I love this kind of stuff. This kind of goes into what's actually really going on. We kind of think, they can have the phone, or they can have the iPad, or they can watch the TV. And look, in short bursts, that's okay. But what we need to understand and be making an empowered decision and choice is that when our kids are on these things too long, we also need to understand that every single brain in your child's brain is growing from the experiences they're around. Okay, so they're growing from everything they're around. So if they're going to be sitting in front of a television or sitting on their iPad, their brain is becoming experience dependent. So it's going to learn stuff that the computer is doing, right? And we are made as human beings to be growing through movement, through play, through conversations, through human connection, through games. And when they're doing that, they're missing out on all these other things. Yeah. So your kid's actually missing out on those areas of development which are going to be fostering them and developing them to be the best that they can be, academically, cognitively, socially, emotionally. And so we need to be careful, because things like passive sitting and passive watching is doing nothing. Yeah. Right? And each hour or each time of that really high quality, that real world engagement of who we are as human beings, right? That is building all those neural pathways in our brains that we need for school. We need to be able to sit still. We need to be able to pay attention. We need those gross motor skills to be able to write, right? To be able to read. Even things like our eyes, right? So one of the activities we do is it's what we call saccades with our eyes. We can move our eyes side to side. A lot of the kids can't do that because they've been just looking at screens, and their eyes only know to look straight. So they've got no eye muscles, right? Yeah. And so we need to understand and language development, communication skills with people, right? Understanding empathy. And when screen is replacing those rich experiences, the brain misses the opportunity for what we call a serve return interactions that we are naturally wired to be able to develop as human beings, right? As kids. Those emotional and cognitive circuits that are lifelong for our learning. Yeah. And we need to remember those experiences, what are we really providing or not providing? These days research is telling us kids are spending less time moving, less time sleeping, less time engaged face to face. And then a massive shift is also correlated with increase in deficits with attention, increased deficits with emotional regulation, well-being, learning, right? And all the research is pulling back to these themes. And we need to go back and think, okay, how can I parent my kid through this? How can I help my kid through this for the long term?
Okay. So it's how do we help our kids through this on a long-term basis? Yeah. What is it that's happening in the kid's life or the kid's world that says, I want the device, I want to sit in front of the screen? Because I grew up in an era.
I did too.
In an era where it was
Saturday Disney.
Yeah, Saturday Disney. Yeah, well, yeah, you had the mum and dad, the idiot box sitting in front of you.
Well, about the TV, wasn't
square eyes, don't sit too close, you'll have square eyes. Yeah, but at the same time, I think there was a nice balance for where my mum and dad would be like, just go outside and ride your bike.
Definitely.
And you'd set up a brick and a piece of wood, and you'd do jumps in the street because it was nice and safe. I don't see kids doing that these days. Is that part of the challenge? Is they're drawn to the device, they're drawn to the games because of the stimulation they're grown to, or is it we just don't encourage or create that space anymore? Yeah,
look, that's really good. And every family and every child's different, right? Yeah. So this is why I always go back to the why, right? What is the why? Really, really think deep down. Okay, so if a child is coming home and going straight to technology, it's highly likely it's a routine. They've come in the door. What do? I go to technology. Yep. I don't know what else to do. because it's a trigger, right? They've learned a pattern, okay? If they are going straight onto the iPad, is it the same thing, right? Why don't they go do something else? Okay, so first of all, we're always going to look for something we love straight away, right? So we need to think about, well, how can we make it not an option, right? And I've worked with a lot of families on these kind of things. We've worked through actually even a child who went through a detox, an iPad detox, because emotionally it was affecting him, in the classroom it was affecting him, right? And the absolute massive change in that. So look at the why. Why is my kid doing that? What other opportunities of creativity can we provide?
Yeah.
But maybe in a different environment or different opportunities. Instead of going straight home, go straight to the park.
Yeah, okay.
You know, change the triggers that are already there for them.
Now, we're talking devices. We're talking about how do we get our kids connected healthily in and you know, staying off the tech, but getting connected back into real life and finding a balance there. Now, it's a hard place to be. Now, I'm going to kick this off with a story because it came out of my world, and then, Nat, I'm going to throw to you. Now, when I was a kid, my TV at home died. I was probably about 14 or 15 years of age. It was an old box colour TV. It wasn't anything great, but it was the only TV that we had. And Mum and Dad were like, TV doesn't work anymore. You can't watch telly. And I'm like, I've got to get this to work because I was addicted to telly. So, you know, the coat hangers came out, the coax cables came out, and I just jammed stuff in to work out how to make it work. And we got the telly back up and running again. And that telly we kept using for another 2 or 3 years. But I think when it comes to devices, how do we find and set new routines with our kids that they're not trying to modify, do stuff like I did as a kid, but they're learning how to go, okay, healthy routines, but the parent's not being the baddie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, you know, there are times like when we have the technology, which might be like a family movie night or, you know, that's kind of that connection time. Yeah. And what we're talking about here is making sure that we're not using it excessively because we know that it's damaging our social skills, our emotional skills, developmental delays, physical health, cognitive health, academic learning. We know that's impacting all that stuff, right? So how do we do that without being a bad parent? And, you know, having 3 kids myself, the worst thing you could ever do is just go home and just like, all right, give me your iPad, take it away, give me all the gaming and take it away, right? Because they're going to hate you forever, right? And they'll have that horrible memory of you doing that, right? So, but there are ways that you can do this, which we have done and I've worked with families and done on not being that baddie, right? And it's about just playing dumb behind the scenes, right? So one of the families we worked with was that we worked with a school on actually leaving the iPad at school.
Yep.
Okay, and we worked with the teacher, and the teacher was actually just asking that this child had to leave the iPad at school every single day of the week. On weekends, what happened was that the iPad then went over to grandma's or something, right? And then accidentally, oh my goodness, we left it at grandma's, right? And then grandma's now lost the iPad. Could you believe it? You know, and so there are ways for us to start thinking about these things. Another example we had was Netflix, a notification came up quite recently and said that we needed to replace our television, saying that there's something new going on. And we just said to the kids, oh, damn, we can't get Netflix anymore. And they saying to us, well, we get new TVs. We're not getting a new TV. It works perfectly, right? And so there are ways where the internet is just broken, right? Damn it, that internet. Oh, they're not coming out to fix it. You have to be creative, right? You're not going to be the baddie.
Yeah.
Okay. But then in that moment, you find ways of, oh my goodness, we can do other things. Like one of the amazing families we worked with was we managed to get a garden going for their child and they were growing strawberries,
fantastic,
right? Then they got a fish tank for their kid.
Yeah.
Kids need to do stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when they get home after school, yes, we can encourage them to play, but you have to provide the materials and the equipment for them to do something, right? Otherwise they will get irritated and bored, okay? Lego is an amazing one. You know, just thinking about like going out to the shops and creating kits for them to create and do, and you will find their thing. Find the stuff that they actually really enjoy doing, right? And giving them opportunities to be able to do those things, as well as you know, seeing them thrive, cooking together, and all the things that we know that are really developing their brain, helping them feel really good about themselves, and building your relationship with them as well, right? It's hard, but you have to choose your hard, right? It's harder to deal with the emotional, the depression, all the problems that all this excessive technology and social media is coming with, than dealing with it head on at the beginning and going, do you know what? I really love you and I'm going to take the reins and I'm your parent and you may hate me for doing this, but I'm doing this because I love you and I know what is really important for you right now. And I think that's what we really need as parents, to know that we're actually doing the right thing. Okay? We're not trying to be their best friend. We're not trying to be, I'm doing this to be kind to you, because what you're actually doing is not setting boundaries, which is what they need.
Yeah. It's such a good thing to remind parents that, hey, they are the parent in that space.
Yes. We so are the parent. Yes. And they will love you more for it, right? Yeah. Because they know that you're protecting them and giving them those boundaries, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, very much so. Hey, look, we need to land this plane. So, Natalie, thank you so much. And I know that Jess has sent through a message there, but I think you've sort of nailed it there about like taking routines, creating new spaces, new things to do instead of just going straight to the iPad on that question, how do we create new routines? I think you nailed that in that space there. So, yeah. Natalie, thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
You're on Sunshine. This was recorded as part of Table Talk on Sunshine. If you want to catch up with the full episode of this, go to sunshine.com.au and look up Table Talk. You'll be able to find it there. Can I highly recommend you go and get the Sunshine app, put it on your phone. You can listen to us live anywhere, broadcasting hope across the world. If you want to listen to our long form podcast, go to your favourite streaming service. You'll find it there, or go to the Sunshine app, download it. You'll get it all there. You're with Doug, you're on Sunshine.